All right, we're back. Last episode before the World Cup. We'll have to do something for the World Cup too. We haven't figured that out. But this is Eat, Pray, Limbs, the EPL English Premier League betting show. Just me and Sam today. Zaw's out. Before we get into the slate, let's just start with the United States selection. You got both flags flying in the background there. Give us your little breakdown, Sam.
Sure. Quick and dirty. I'm fine with it.
Let's
I
start
know
up
that
front because up front is where everybody seems to be up in arms. So
yeah,
strikers was always going to be a
because
problem.
right. Nobody's taken the position by the horns and made it theirs, right? And so we've had several windows where guys were given a shot and nobody really grabbed it. So, the fact that Pepe was left off is obviously a big talking point. No PFOC as well. Those were two probably the most controversial snubs, if you will. And Berhalter did call in Haji Wright. I'm fine with it. I've said all along, I like Josh Sargent. I think he's my number one. So, the fact that there's no Pepe, no PFOC, I really feel bad for those guys because they, at different times, they've come up huge for the U.S. during qualifying. But it is what it is. Greg felt like he wanted a big body in Haji Wright, and Haji Wright has scored some goals in Turkey, and he scored goals for the U.S. So, we'll see how it goes. I think Sargent is as capable, if not more, as everybody else. So I'm okay with it.
Is Sargent going to start?
Don't know.
Yeah,
Don't know. He would for me. He would for me, but it seems like, I don't. I've sort of given up on guessing what Greg's going to do these days. Like I thought I had a handle on it, and then then he left Stefan at home, which obviously was a big talking point as well.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Interesting. I'm not sure that Stefan earned it, to be honest. He hasn't played that well. Up until his move to Middlesbrough, he's played well there, to his credit. But he had some big injuries at big times, and I think he just sort of was assumed to be Greg's guy because he played for him here in MLS.
Yep.
And so the fact that Greg left him at home, actually, I was sort of impressed. Because there's nothing on Zach Steffen. I think he's a great keeper, and if he was on the team, I wouldn't have had a problem with it at all. But I thought the fact that Greg Berhalter, made the decision to leave him at home after all these years of everybody assuming that Steffen was his guy, and people talking about Steffen perhaps being in consideration to start.
Yeah,
they were talking about, Tim Howard was talking about, is Turner going to start, or is Zach Steffen going to start, the day that Greg Berhalter, the rumors started circulating that Steffen wasn't going to go. So the fact that Berhalter made that decision, I was kind of impressed by that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where obviously I've seen a good amount of Horvath now because he's a Forest guy, and Samba had last year he's like the king of shithousery. So he had a red card, which cost him a game for suspension, and then he had like a why don't you sit on the bench for a little while, like Steve Cooper suspension too. Yeah. And Horvath played well in that stretch, and he's been good for Luton Town, I guess, in the championship. But he does seem like his ceiling is just lower than Steffen's. So I still don't really understand, because God forbid, like I still think Steffen is probably their second most talented goalie, and God forbid something happen to Turner, then it's like you would want your second most talented, or possibly most talented goalie to be available in there. To leave him at home, I felt like that one felt odd to me.
Yeah, I think odd and interesting were the words and surprising that came to mind. But listen, Turner he's been our undisputed number one in my brain for a long time. Sean Johnson hasn't had too many opportunities on the international stage, but he's been around a long while. He's experienced. Horvath has played in some big games. He played against Mexico for a trophy off the bench unexpectedly. So these guys will be okay. The margins between Zach Steffen and Ethan Horvath are, in my mind, vanishingly small, to be honest. They're goalkeepers at the end of the day.
Yeah. Do you want to give us a predicted shape and 11?
I very
best
much,
you can.
yeah. I mean, I very much assume he's going to stick with sort of you know, the 4-3-3. I can't imagine he's going to go some sort of get creative at this point. Like if there's one thing I think about, you know, Greg Berhalter, it's, you know, sort of missionary sex with, you know, the lights off and 4-3-3 with 2 at the back. Like there's no way he's going to like switch it up and go 3 at the back, especially not with the group we got there. But you know, you're going to
get 2 in that spot. Yeah,
you're right. And in fact, we didn't even talk about Tim Ream, who was a big talking point. But listen, I'm all in on the Ream team at this point. I talked myself into it, and that's another thing. Before we get to the formation, the structure, and the personnel, at this point, we got a team. The team's picked. Like, if you guys want to sort of quibble about this and that, like Christian Roldan over Malik Tillman, blah blah blah, that's fine. Do it for a day or two, but then you know what? It's over. Like those types of decisions, the 25th guy that made the roster, the 26th guy, doesn't matter. Okay. The first 15 to 18 guys, that's what matters. That's who's going to play. And we've got the most talent we have ever had going to a World Cup. So I feel good.
No more Wandos.
Oh, man. Poor Wando. He's never going to live that down.
I mean, if it wasn't for, it just became him versus Donovan. And it's like, you know, Donovan would have scored that goal in that spot. Like, you know, he would have had it. Like, that's what he did his whole life. And so that's why he'll stick him. I'll be like 78 years old and be like, just Wondolowski. Yeah. So it'll be, I'm excited. It's just good to be back in. I think that last cycle with Japan and Saudi Arabia left such a bad taste in my mouth that my expectations for this group right now just couldn't be any lower. And then to go back with Sargent and Wright as your kind of strikers to get in the team late in the game, it just felt like, well, okay, like they weren't a part of the last group, so let's see what they got here. So yeah, I do want to hear your I know the 4-3-3. So who are your? I feel like the back line is pretty much set. So in the middle, you have what? Musa?
Well, you know, the big question is whether he's going to go with Tim Ream over Aaron Long. I think that's sort of the big question mark. I don't know. I don't know where he's going to go on that one. But Zimmerman will be the other center back. Almost for sure.
And like the Tim Ream thing, like he's like kind of a meme at this point where people just rag on him. And then you look at Fulham and he's just in the starting lineup every single week. And they're good, they're productive every single week. So it's almost like, how do you not include that guy if he's playing in the Premier League and for a mid-table club? If he's good enough for them, he should be good enough for us.
You would think. But Berhalter didn't bring him in at all coming down the stretch. And then all of a sudden, he's back in the mix.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, things happen.
Do you think that's like self-doubt creeping in for him? Or if
for Ream or for
Berhalter? No, for Berhalter, where it's like,
I don't know.
Maybe that last cycle's creeping in his brain too.
It could be. Perhaps it should have. That the performances against you know, those who was it, Japan and
Saudi Arabia
were that bad that we should probably, you know, have a little rethink. But listen, we guys were injured there. Those games did not matter. You could tell from the performances. I'm not shook. I'm not nearly as shook as a lot of people are about that window. So the 4-3-3, I got, you know, Robinson and Dest on the sides, Zimmerman, and I'm just going to guess Ream, but it could be Long in the middle. Adams, McKennie, Musa in the middle there. Then I would probably go with Pulisic and Weah and Sargent. It's tough. Like Aronson and Reyna are, you know, deserved starters. They should be out there. Aronson, to me, when he comes off the bench, has just made such an impact for the U.S. when he does that, that in my mind, he's just a super sub, even though he's shown for Leeds, he can go all 90 and be that just absolute energizer bunny. So listen, there's going to be a hard decision or two here regardless. Reyna, I prefer to come off the bench because I'm just scared that if we play him too much, he's going to get hurt, to be honest.
He is made of glass. I guess it's, for me with Reyna, I'm really worried about this team being able to score. And I feel like he has that little spark of creativity, little spark of magic where he can turn, you know, nothing into something. And they don't have a ton of that. I love the midfield. I think the midfield is strong with McKennie, Adams, and Musa, but it's just like you need something in that final third, and a guy who can set up, spring some of these guys. And I think that he's the only guy who's like a true 10, like a true 10.
Yeah, there's some truth to that, but Weah's got that sort of, he can make a difference on the wing, not as a 10, but he's got that, like, I'll go at somebody who somebody want to get in front of me. That's fine. I'll go at him. That's the type of thing we need. And you're right. There's not, as much of that as you'd like.
Yeah. And Weah is another guy who, I mean, he's been healthy this year, but this whole qualification cycle, it's like he's in and out, in and out, in and out, with little tweaks. It reminds, like, I'm getting bad, like Josie Altidore flashbacks with this group where it's just, right when they're at the top of their form, it's like, oh, there goes his hamstring 3 minutes into the game against Ghana. Like, it's just, so I don't know. You would think with, United States soccer doesn't ever have like lofty expectations, and this is our most talented group ever, like you said. I am so pessimistic, but I just I got this sinking feeling that they're not getting out of the group.
Well, if they don't, that would be just an abject, complete failure, And at that point, I think Berhalter would without question, Berhalter would have to go. The real question is, if they make it out of the group and they make it to the round of 16 and lose there, then it becomes sort of we'll see. I don't know if U.S. Soccer gets rid of him in that situation, and I think it depends on the performances. If we come up against, say, a Netherlands and they're just like looking incredible, and we play with them but we lose, I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. Then if we make a quarterfinal, Berhalter is going to be our guy for a little while longer.
Yeah, you just look over at Wales, and they have just names that and it's like and they have all the, they haven't made it, I think, since 1964, so they're going to have all the hype, and they have like this balance of, youth, with the two Forest guys, and then Christian Bale, and then so it's like they have the veteran guys. So it seems like they have Hennessy in net is, he's been an EPL goaltender for a long time. He's a Forest guy too, so 3 Forest guys on Wales, and it's just like I could see a situation where it's like 1-1 late, and then Bale does something special, Johnson does something special, and it's like, wow, fuck. Now you got to go play England day after Thanksgiving.
Oh, you're right. Listen, that Wales game is everything.
Monster.
It is everything.
Yeah.
I think you're maybe over. I don't know, the word is escaping me, but I think the Wales' talent, they're not as talented as us.
No, I know.
I know that they have the name brand thing from the EPL and a lot of stuff, and Christian/Gareth Bale, but like we got more talent than them. We have more difference makers than them. There is just no question in my mind that we should beat them. And if we don't, you're right. Even a draw would scare. I would get a little scared with the draw, but a win in that game. If we win that game, 1 foot in the next round, it sort of gets the casual fan energized. I mean, it just is a whole different ball game. I'm nervous, excited, anxious, scared, all the emotions.
It's weird to feel like you have the entire 4-year cycle riding on the first game. And then, then it's like, if you do win that game, and the way it shakes out, it would be something if they somehow, like, you could envision a scenario where it's like, well, maybe Senegal surprises people, and then they win Group A.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the United States could beat Senegal, and all of a sudden you're in the final 8. So, and it's like, and the final 8 would be incredible, but it doesn't, I don't know. I am so, I'm scared.
You are.
Yeah. And I just feel like they're more grizzled. Like I just that Wales group, they have they have the EPL big competition, name recognition, and it's just like you hear those names, and even if it is Christian Bale playing the MLS, Gareth Bale playing the MLS, like he's still that guy. Like he's still capable of magic, and so we'll see. It's going to be. I think we might be doing some kind of watch party at the Barstool Bar for that. So I'll be there for the Wales USA game. And then England for Black Friday should be, that one's just like whatever. Let's just throw it out there.
Let's just beat Wales. We'll deal with that later.
One at a time. And with that, why don't we get to, you got anything else you want to touch on for the men's national team?
No, we hit everything. It's just all about Wales game at this point. I think we just need to get behind enough of this Berhalter out shit, enough of that stuff. It's time to positive vibes only, and we'll deal with, firing people and recriminations later. Right now, it's about get behind the boys and let's go win some games.
And it's a weird thing to say, but it's almost like this is really almost all about the next cycle too, because they are the youngest team in the tournament, which is surprising or shocking. And the next tournament's here. There shouldn't be any qualification hiccups next time. Well, there won't be.
Well, there won't be.
They also expand the field to 48 next time too. So we're going to see like Trinidad, Tobago, and whatever make it from CONCACAF. So it's going to be a big field. They automatically qualify. You would hope that there's a group of 16, 17-year-old kids that we don't even know about that are going to be ready to step into bigger positions. But it does feel like this is like a slingshot tournament to do some real damage in 2026. But you got to get out of the group. You got to get out of the group in order to have like that sort of belief and momentum and all that. So I will say one other thing though. It's nice that our guys are Americans again. So we don't do that thing with Klinsmann where it's just like, I don't know, we'll just give this guy a green card for a while and come on board. So
that's what America's all about, right? We're all about sort of, happy family.
Sure, totally. But maybe have lived here for a minute or two.
It shows that there's sort of, listen, there's guys like Dest on the team and everything like that, but it still shows that the grassroots is really sort of producing a lot more talent.
Way more.
Used to.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and then you want this group to inspire the next group too. Like that's part of the equation. You want people to be the next Pulisic. So this is the last slate of EPL games. So
enjoy it.
It feels weird because it's like you look at the top teams and I'm having this thought to myself, like this has never happened before. So are there going to be teams that are like, well, hey, like we got 6 guys playing, big roles for Argentina, England, France, whoever. Are they going to be somewhat checked out in this last EPL game, looking at the next step forward? So it's no one knows what really to anticipate on that front. Are there games that are sticking out to you on the slate this week?
Well, I was just sort of looking through it, and like the game that stuck out was not because I have a strong feel. In fact, I'm not sure I have any feel on it, but that Newcastle-Chelsea game is just really interesting. To me, because we've been talking about this for months, basically, that Newcastle is just like they just keep rolling along, they just keep winning, and now they're coming up and they've beaten some big teams. Now they got Chelsea at home. This feels like a game where just the philosophy, the thought process for everybody else, I don't know about them, but for everybody else is just different now. Like if you had asked a few months ago, Chelsea, a Big Six team going to Newcastle, you'd sort of think like, well, can Newcastle hang on? And now it's like, well, can Chelsea play with them?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not sure they can the way that Chelsea's been playing lately.
We had a group of guys go to the bar for the Forest game last weekend, and everyone's like, well, thank God we got St. James Park out of the way, because that game ended up, I think it was a 2-0 final. But it's like if you played them now, it might be 6. Like they're a wagon, and this is you went right to that one. That's like I said, I'm staying at the wedding. I'm invited every time. I'm gonna ride with them. So I do think that there's going to be some goals in this game. So I've got a little three-piece parlay in that game. Newcastle to win. Over 2.5 and both to score. That gets you to plus 340. And I just think Newcastle, I just think they're better than Chelsea. So I was surprised that the money line, I think they're plus 130 at home. I was thinking it might be closer to plus 160, plus 175, something like that. But maybe they're starting to get that respect, at least from bookmakers. But it wasn't enough to scare me off of it. It just made me lump a few other things in. So where are you coming down on that, I guess? So I'm with Newcastle until I have to go to the funeral. I don't think the funeral's this week. So where are you?
Yeah, I don't think I can jump off the bandwagon either. I'm not sure I was on it, but I'll just
No,
sort
you
of
weren't on it.
I'll sort
I
of
was waving
pretend.
to you from it every week.
I mean, at the beginning of the season, I did say that Newcastle is the one that's going to break into the Big Six. Now
Yeah.
we're got to talk about whether they're going to break into the Big
Four.
Four,
Yeah.
which they might, or top four anyway. Chelsea, the way they've been playing, I just can't imagine how they get a result out of this. They got thoroughly, utterly played off the field by Arsenal last week.
Yeah.
Like the fact that game was 1-0 is mind-boggling. It was at Stamford Bridge. They just, I know Arsenal's playing well right now, but that result, and then they got spanked by Brighton before then.
Mm-hmm.
Half, if probably more than that, of the Chelsea guys are going to be playing in the World Cup. So like they're probably, I don't know if it's checked out is the right word, or basically like worried about getting injured.
Yep.
So I just think this game has a Newcastle win written all over it. How it ends up getting there, I'll join your bandwagon, I guess.
All right, so that's plus 340. So to reiterate, because I mean, it's not like Newcastle doesn't give up anything either. So they'll give up a goal here or there. So Newcastle, the over 2.5 and both to score, plus 340. I feel like that's the money one for me. This board, I don't know if it's because it's the layoff coming, but I was like, I don't really know about anything. But that one I had circled. I think that's the 11:30 Central, so like the midday game over here. So it should have a lot of eyeballs. And I feel like you just put that one in the bank. Like I'm taking that one right to the bank. I feel very good about that one.
That's a time slot that you can always count on goals for as well. They've actually done studies, and there's actually statistics behind this. Yeah. It's sort of like those 6:30 a.m. Central games. There's like the lowest amount of goals, and then these midday American time games. Time. There's always goals. Yeah. So
all right, well, I like that too. I don't know if I knew that stat, but as soon as you said it, I'm like, well, that makes sense. Just like anecdotally, like memories. I'm like, yeah, totally. That's got to happen. What else is on your card?
Well, the one that sort of stands out, if I was actually going to go with one and only one, which obviously probably not, probably go with a little bit more than that. But the Brighton Villa game. So, we've been talking about both teams to score and all this stuff. Like last week, I put it on the line. If Leeds and Bournemouth, if they did not come through for me with that both teams to score and over parlay thing, I was going to give it up. I was going to have to give it up.
Yep.
Not only did they come through, I mean, they came through with flying colors, 7 goals, just an absolute incredible game. Not exactly the highest quality.
It was another game where I thought Jesse Marsch was getting fired at halftime.
I mean, they were down 3-1 at one point, and it was looking dire. But yeah, so they came storming back, 7 goals. But I mean, like my over in both teams to score was done in the first half. Those are the games that you live for. I think that Brighton Aston Villa game, I don't think it has 7 goals written all over it, but I do think it has goals written all over it. I do think that both teams to score is a good one. I like Unai Emery and what he's doing at Villa. So I think that Brighton Villa game, that's a both teams to score over parlay special. Okay. I gotta come up with a snazzier name for it, but that's my saying special. That's not it.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, I might tell you on that one. I have a couple where I'm like, this team has to start coming back down to earth, and I think it's time for Fulham to start coming back down to earth. They have to. So they're bottom 5 in XG, yet they don't seem to concede all that many goals. Mm-hmm. So this is another one where I didn't quite have the balls to just bet Man U to do like the triple parlay inside that game, but I am leaning towards Man U in that game. But I love both teams to score, and I love the over 2.5. So I'm taking one an arrow out of your quiver there, and I think I might. And those two things together is minus 117. You add in Man U, and now you're into some pretty nice plus money. I don't think Fulham can keep this up all year. Like the shoe has to drop at some point. Or you're buying into Fulham?
No, I'm buying into your brain, letting your heart sort of take the wheel and steer things a little bit
I
here.
mean, they're sitting ninth. They're sitting how? They
No,
have
I
the
hear
same
you.
amount of points as Liverpool today.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've had an impressive start, quietly impressive. Ream
Yeah.
team, by the way, shout
Yeah.
out Ream team.
Mhm.
Well, so I was also laughing because, I mean, I kind of got bad news. Is I like your bet. So the first one I had was Brighton and Villa, and then the second one in terms of ranked order was that game, and I
Okay.
had Fulham United, both teams to score. I had over 2.5, and I do think United will win that game. So you combine all three of those, and as you said, you get to some pretty nice plus money.
All right. So why don't we just do that then? We'll have both of those games, and then I got Forest again. We waited 25 minutes until we brought them up because they beat the piss out of Spurs in the Carabao Cup. You have any commentary on that? It's
Two
not like
things.
you started like
It wasn't a total B squad.
no,
No,
and
but
you could say Forest did the same thing.
yeah, that was a disappointing performance overall. I mean, like
You guys stink.
we do stink. We're
They
we're the
stink.
walking wounded at the moment. Like we're
Yeah.
limping into the break here.
No one needs it worse than you guys.
Just gotta get through this. Like I hope we win against Leeds this weekend. I don't feel great about it. At least it's at home. I don't want us to win big. I just want us to, get over the hump and get 3 points. I don't want Marsh to get fired.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of in a weird spot there. Yeah, we're walking wounded. That was an atrocious display of soccer against you guys in the midweek. It was just awful.
Do you think that was more how bad Spurs was, or was because I really thought that was the best game Forest played all year.
I mean, I'd like
Lingard
to
looked great.
think that's what it is. I'd like to think that's what it is. I just don't know the way
Yeah.
that Spurs have been playing. I don't know where their heads at. They've got a lot of guys that are probably in that same spot as we talked about with Chelsea. Harry Kane probably focusing on the World Cup, not focusing on, but he's got an eye on it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get hurt right now. You really don't want to get hurt.
That would be devastating. Can you imagine, like, you work your whole life to play in this, and then you get some little stupid
in the prime of your career, like
hurt an ankle or something, and it's like, oh, now I'm fucked.
It's
like
just it's crazy that FIFA is essentially putting him in this spot. It really is. It's insane.
That I started watching that Netflix documentary about all the corruption that goes on. It is obviously everybody knew like there was a ton of corruption. The level and like the shamelessness of it is shocking. Where they just outright like, yeah, like I'll vote for you. Just give me cash.
Oh yeah.
And like, well,
and it's
where's
been
that cash
it was
gonna
like
go?
that forever. Yeah, I used to write blogs back when I was sort of a blogger about that, and I remember I was blogging back when Sepp finally got the heave ho and Ding Dong the Witch was dead and all those blogs. It's just insane, and they weren't gonna get rid of him until like the public actually. Well, no, it wasn't. Well, that would have eventually brought him down, but that's not what brought him down. What brought him down was the public sort of finally grasped how bad this situation was, and they got on sponsors, and sponsors got on FIFA, and that's when it happened. It was quick too, like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, MasterCard. When their CEO, sent a text to somebody at FIFA, it was like 2 days later, Sepp Blatter's gone. So if you're wondering about who actually runs things around here, that'll give you a little insight.
Corporations, of course. So Forest is at home. That place is, they are a different team at home. Like even if you look at like the advanced stats and it's like their XG allowed at away is like
you guys are getting run off the field. Yeah,
they have already played Arsenal and Man City away, which contributes to that, obviously. But he gave up 11 goals in those games. So I do think that they've turned a corner defensively. I'm very interested to see what the starting 11 will be because Lingard looks so good finally against Spurs that it'd be hard pressed to either change his position because he was allowed to operate as a true 10. And he was working with a couple of strikers up top, like genuine strikers, like Sam Surge is like a real striker, and then Taiwo was in there as well. So if you allow him to work in the middle and find those spaces and come back and get the ball, he looked like the guy who everyone thought that they signed, a guy that, had a shot to get on the English national team before coming here when the season's just been such a disaster. Plus 220 at home. I feel like there's something to that. 220. I know you like Crystal Palace. Zaha is a scary guy. Eduard's a scary guy. I think that they have kind of figured it out. Like, you throw away the Arsenal game, which I think you just should. Like, Arsenal is a wagon. Just throw that out. Yeah, the cup win against Spurs, some good result against Liverpool, draws. They're playing much better than they were 6 weeks ago. And I feel like this is a slingshot game. And
slingshot into the break.
Yeah, slingshot into the break. Another training camp, get everybody kind of cohesive, maybe a few more buys in January, and you win this game, and you literally could be out of the relegation zone if things break your way around the rest of the league. So as bad as it's been, one win and you're no longer relegated, I think anybody would, if you asked any Nottingham Forest fan, they would have been like, yeah, we don't want 17th, but we would take 17th. And now it's like it has been a season from hell, but they're right there. So I still can't bend this finger. That's permanently damaged from the Liverpool game. But I think plus 220. They got that game stolen from them. Do you see the Brentford game?
I think I saw the highlights of it.
Okay. You don't agree. So basically, the review board came back and was like, the penalty that we awarded to Brentford that allowed the game to basically be a tie, should not have been a penalty. And then there are 3 calls in question. 2 of them for Forest that were reviewed and decided no penalty, should have been a penalty. So they reviewed the review, and it was like, well, then Forest should have won that game 4-1. And it's like, what the fuck? And instead they split, it was a 2-2 tie. And I do feel like they've turned a corner. And I believe in Cooper, and I think plus 220, that's enough of a number at home for me to dive in.
I will not be tailing you on that. Not that I think that it's a terrible bet. I think that's pretty good value for a team that plays a lot better at home. Yeah. Palace, they kind of scare me. They're
a scary team. They are.
They're not a bad team. So I'm just casually staying away on that one.
Okay. I mean, you could tell me I'm a moron, but I think this is like one of those. All right, this is a moment. This is a moment. Use the momentum from the cup game, and you could see it. Like when Lingard scored, you had guys running off the bench to celebrate with him. They were so like, that's his first goal. Like, they're so happy for him. So I think he's a popular guy, even though he has kind of a bad rap, it seems like. But yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited for tomorrow, and I think Forest gets that win, and then we'll figure out the World Cup and where USA is gonna end up. And but I think this is the Newcastle Chelsea bet, and then the Fulham Man United bet. I think those are going to be winners this week. And if no one wants to tail the Forest one, I understand my credibility there. I think I've taken them almost every week. But this is the week.
This is the week. This is the week.
This is the week. All right. Any final thoughts, Sam?
No. I mean, I would have loved to continue the party with my guys in the club, Leeds and Bournemouth, after the big game last week. The both teams to score and over parlay, which they are firmly at the table in the VIP section at this point. But they play at Tottenham for Leeds, and they play against Everton for Bournemouth, which those two teams are definitely never even been like invited to the club. So I'm out on them. I'm going to stick with the Brighton Villa and Fulham United.
All right, I like it.
Have ourselves a weekend.
That's it for Limbs, and we'll see you guys next week.